Hello, and welcome to Ask the Trade Pros, a show where a couple of trade guys talk about trade stuff and other nonsense. We're here to answer your questions about HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and any other home system so that you can keep your home running smoothly. I'm Jordan.
I'm Todd.
Today we're here answering a listener question from Denise. She says, I've noticed that my AC unit leaks water. Why does this happen, and how do I fix it?
Thanks for the question, Denise. It can be stressful to discover water leaking from your HVAC unit or anywhere in your home for that matter. But today we'll cover some of the common causes that could be your problem and how to correct it.
Let's start at the beginning for this. ACs condensate water. So it's similar to a cold drink, cold soda, cold beer, whatever your cold drink is, cold White Claw, whatever's trendy. When they're in the warm weather, they will, and there's humidity out, the texture of the coil inside it, they will condensate water and water will drain out of the system. That is normal. So if it's going through the normal pipe and it's coming out the normal drainage way, that's normal. What we're worried about here today are leaks. That is water coming out of places where it shouldn't or not coming out of places when it should.
Yeah, well, we didn't ask Denise. We should have asked her where the water was coming from. Was it in her garage? Was it dripping through her ceiling? Where the issue occurred? And then we'd be able to better identify the problem and how to solve that issue. So I guess we'll just have to cover the basics in this one.
Yeah, we'll start with where the water should be coming, and then I'll let you talk about why the water wouldn't be coming out and what might cause that, Todd. So in a normal system out here where we live, the water will drain out of the unit into a PVC or copper condensate drain line. Then it runs either by gravity to the ground or into a pump. Now, when it runs on a newer build home, you'll see it come out the side of the house, and it comes out in with a lower level drain, usually about 6 inches from the ground. And it will be quite a lot of water. It'll be gallons in the summer. So it's normal. So when people say, oh, there's a lot of water, that's okay. As long as it's coming straight out of the pipe and nowhere else, we're okay. Now, if you have a house here with an attic, there's going to be two spots that it could come out. The lower spot is the correct spot, and Todd can talk a little bit more about the higher spot. If there's a spot that's above your head, that is the secondary drain, and it should not normally come out of there. Now, in older homes, it's just going to go either into a pump, which then gets pumped to a drain, or it's going to go up across the roof. Sometimes you won't see where this drains in a house. It'll just go into an old sewer, or it'll go in under a sink or somewhere where you won't notice it. So not every house is going to have a visible drain that you can physically see the water come out in. Now, what happens when things go wrong, Todd?
Well, I guess the most common thing we see here now is monsoon season. So in Arizona, typically half of the year or most of the year, you're not
10 months of the year.
You're not seeing any condensation drip out of any pipe because it's so hot and dry. But during monsoon season, we really see an uptick in leaking in this case or clogged lines. So that's probably the biggest case is the clogged line that just needs to be vacuumed out, blown out with nitrogen, cleaned depending on the drain. If it goes into a floor drain, sometimes it needs to be snaked. But most commonly, it is clogged, and that could be related to a lot of different things. Dirty filter, dust. We live in Arizona here, so it's a lot of dirt, a lot of dust that can make its way onto that coil. And when it condensates, that dirt and grime has to go somewhere through that drain line, which has to have a P-trap as well. So sometimes those P-traps get clogged and need to be cleared out occasionally.
Yeah, we see that a lot. So where we are here in Tucson, that dirt will rinse down into the drain, and then in the 10 months of a year that we don't have any water, it hardens and then builds up and then hardens and builds up, just like it does in your regular sewer drains where you get blockages that build up over time. Periodically, those need to be cleaned out. It should not be leaking, though, into your house, out of the side of the coil. You can generally tell when you have a backup, you'll see water. If you'll see water anywhere, but the only place you should ever see the water is out of that drain that is visible outside 6 inches above the ground. Anywhere else, that water is coming out of a place it should not be coming out of.
Yeah, and you mentioned the primary and secondary drain line. So if your system's in an attic and you notice that water's coming out from that upper pipe, typically, right below roof level, that means that your primary, which is the lower pipe Jordan was talking about, is clogged. So what happens is the primary line becomes clogged, clogs the coil, which then overflows into what's called a secondary drain pan. and that acts as a form of protection so you don't have a collapsed ceiling or drywall or something along those lines.
Well, Todd was talking about protection. We have a couple of protective methods and means that you should have in your house to help prevent these kind of things. First of all, most modern AC systems are going to have a condensate safety switch installed. This is a little switch on the drain that's either electrical or a plunger style. And what it does is when it backs up, it shuts off the AC. Now, you won't know you have a clogged water drain, but you'll know the AC stopped working. You'll call out a professional. They'll be able to locate that the water's backing up and clear it out before it floods the house and causes water damage. Another thing is to get your periodic maintenance. You can, as Todd said, you can clear these lines. We have methods. Usually it's compressed air of some sort, compressed nitrogen, something high pressure that's pushed through the lines to push the clogs out. I've seen instances where you can't always do that. Sometimes you get a rodent up in there and I just can't clear it out, or a collapsed line in certain homes. But there are methods that you can do to help prevent some of that water leakage, i.e. the safety switch. You can have serviceable pipes. There's little devices you can put on them that help you clean them out. Get your periodic maintenance where we'll come, you can just ask them to blow it out each season to help make sure it's clear.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend probably, at least here in Arizona on a yearly basis. In our case, before monsoon season, just have that line blown out, cleared. That will help prevent a lot of issues. So we talked about clogged drains, why it happens, what to do, what not to do. So the other reasons that could potentially be causing a leak, and there's multiple reasons, but we'll talk about a few that we know off the top of our head. So the other one's going to be a frozen coil or a dirty filter. So a dirty filter will cause the coil to freeze because it's restricting the airflow. If your coil freezes, then you're going to have water dripping everywhere.
Well, first of all, Todd, who ever lets their filter get dirty, right? Everyone changes it
Nobody,
all the time, right?
No, nobody here, yeah.
We probably get dozens, maybe hundreds of these calls a year, and we've even had customers say, "I didn't even know I had a filter." But anyways, dirty filter will cause the coil to freeze up. What Todd's saying is it literally freezes up. It turns into a block of ice, and when that ice melts, it's too much water for that drainage system to handle, and therefore overflows the pan that the water sits in. So, solution for that is change your filter. I would say monthly. A lot of customers want to change it every 3 months, but filters are relatively inexpensive and water damage from a frozen coil is not. I would err on the side of caution of changing it more often.
Yeah, there's a big misconception that, the pleated filters, everyone seems to think that that's a 90-day filter no matter what.
Because it says it on it.
That no matter what, just leave it in there for 90 days. Well, that's not always the case because it depends on the filter location. Is it in a ceiling? Is it in a floor? Do you have animals? Do you have animals that shed? There's a lot of factors that go into how often a filter should be replaced.
I just peeled a cat off a filter literally yesterday. The customers were like, "Oh yeah, we have cats." And I'm like, "Yes, they're all in this filter."
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you that at my house, I do mine probably every 3 weeks to a month max. And mine are in the ceiling. And I could imagine if they were in the floor, it'd probably be
worse, yeah.
2 to 3 days. Probably need to be replaced. So we covered the frozen, dirty filter. What other issues can there be, Jordan?
Well, you could have, so beyond the filter, what we didn't cover is the coil itself could be dirty. And then that would also cause freezing up. So when we were talking about solutions earlier where you had regular maintenance, a good HVAC technician, when they're doing your seasonal maintenance, specifically in this case, your spring maintenance before the summer, inspect that coil, make sure it's not dirty. If it's dirty, it acts just like a dirty filter and then may cause it to freeze up. Other issues depend on the age of your unit. We recently had one where the customer had some of the older units use old metal pans and the pan had rusted out. So once it rusted out, it had little leaks in it as it cracked and then it was leaking through the pan. Those, not such an easy solution for those because the pans are usually custom tailored for the coils. So you have to remove the pan if they're still available and change them out, or you have to change the whole coil out oftentimes to replace that broken pan because they are a custom tailored fit to the coil. What else do we have, Todd?
Well, I guess the last one would be the unit was installed incorrectly. And what I mean by that is any drain line has to have a slope or a pitch. And there is code requirements stating what that needs to be per foot. But a good rule of thumb is 1/8 to 1/4 inch per foot. A lot of times we've come across installs where it's in an attic or it could be anywhere really, and it has a negative pitch. It's pitched backwards, so you can't expect water to flow uphill.
I mean, you can. It's just not going to work so well. We've seen this a lot. Todd's laughing because he's seen it. There's a difference between a quality install and a non-quality install. We've gone to so many jobs that we come in after the fact and we look at them and we're like, how did you think that would work?
Yeah, exactly. I was laughing because I was thinking about what's the country that it appears that everything is the water is flowing uphill. There's some country, some river that it looks like it's flowing uphill.
I have no idea what
Maybe
you're
I'm
talking
making
about.
stuff
I mean, I
up.
know
That
when you're
tends to
when you're
happen,
south
too.
of the equator, the water flows north, but that's,
Maybe I'm making it up. I don't know.
maybe that was just a TikTok video you saw.
It could be as well.
So there's a lot with the install. There could be, they could not level the pan. They could not level the unit. They could have put, some of the leveling devices could have shifted or moved out. We see that a lot where it was originally leveled and then over time it's worn out and now it's not leveled. Do you have any other thing that happens on these things, Todd?
No, I think we've about covered it all. Everything that we can think of at the moment, at least.
So if your unit is leaking water, that is, it's not coming out of that pipe, you should call your trusted trade pro and have them come take a look at it. If it's coming out of the pipe, that's normal.
Thank you for listening to Ask the Trade Pros. We release new episodes every other Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a question you would like us to answer on the show, please leave us a voicemail or an email, and we may feature your question in an upcoming episode. That information is in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by the good folks at Done Right Services. As always, thank you for your support.